afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Green Arrow FPL podcast from Fantasy Football Hub as we look ahead to game week 36 with the end starting to peak over the horizon. There's not much time left to make big moves. My name is Fergie, and I'm here with the brilliant Rich Clarke. Rich, how are you? And what colour was your arrow in game week 35?
Hi, Fergie. I'm well, but I only achieved the tiniest of red arrows. So it's in that grey arrow zone. I think went down about 400 places or something. And certainly back down to earth with a bump after the 100-point free hit the week before. Last week was pretty disappointing in general, I think, for most fantasy managers. I did feel it was a week to take a bit of a punt, a bit of a risk. So I know on the show last week we talked about a double transfer where I was going to go in Burmo and Bowen. I was discussing with some of our Ultra members the form of West Ham in general, and one of our members, I think you know him, Andrew, he said West Ham are crap at the moment. They're not worth investing in at all. So that I chose to listen to that, put me off Bowen, and I just created my own narrative that I was going to be the only one who owned Ollie Watkins going into last week. So I bought Watkins for Mateta as my sort of 198% owned
Wow.
impact, and but my God, he had a lot of chances, Fergie. I don't know if you saw the game. I know you were away, but he had 2 or 3 really big chances, and it could have been huge. You just couldn't put the ball in the net. So it was worth having a go, sort of out on my own. I didn't follow the template choice. I didn't captain and Burmo, and to be honest, I think I shoulda, woulda, coulda gone Bowen, but I also feel that I got away with a lot last week. I really do. If you think about it, that Brentford thrashing of United, even though they got a couple of late goals, Burmo got one slightly iffy assist, and so didn't really lose out too much to the Burmo captains. Some of the other big captaincies didn't hit either, so I think I really dodged a bullet there by going out on my own. But you and I, before we go on to your team, I think are locked together on exactly 2,300 points after 35 weeks. It is completely level. So you seem to be ahead of me. Maybe you've made one less transfer than me or something.
Me making less transfers than you. I mean, even that's a record.
Yeah.
But De Bruyne, Isak for you, Gvardiol, but not much going on elsewhere. It feels like it's been one of those seasons for us, Rich, where we've, I'll say that I'm sure we'll do a sort of wrap up pod at some point, but I feel like I haven't made many, I wouldn't say any, but many mistakes this season, but we just haven't been rewarded by getting our teams in good positions, if that makes sense. It felt pretty optimal, quite like much of the time in terms of happy with my team, the vast majority of the time, almost all season. Just hasn't kicked on, is it? We both had 97, 98% AI team ratings last week. Everything was pointing towards Green Arrow, massive hauls, as you say, chances everywhere. And Buemo, Brentford scoring 4, Buemo get 1 assist. Watkins, Marmouche blanking and all. It just hasn't quite happened, is it? But no. As you say, locked in, mate. And I'm not sure I think I've beat you. I think I've beaten you maybe once or twice over the whole span of years that you've been playing, but certainly not in recent times, or not since we've been podding. So, lots to play for over the coming weeks.
I know it is. Yeah, even if it's a local battle, and I know Ollie, our editor, is of a similar score to us. He's just gone past us because he did buy Jared Bowen, didn't he? And captained him, I think. So well done, Ollie. If you're listening, I know he does.
Andrew, the ultra, was absolutely right in that West Ham are not very good. I would add to that though. Tottenham are even worse, and Tottenham's defence are dreadful. And if you saw the amount of space that Bowen had for the goal, I mean, how can you possibly have that much time and space in the 6-yard box? Like, what was Ben Davies? He just sort of let him, just let him have it. I was like, why watching it as a Spurs fan? You're just like, goodness me. So hopefully Spurs do the business this evening in Europe, and we get an all-European final, which will be a good watch in a week or two.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah. And a good trip to Spain for 2 sets of fans as well. So
indeed. So I scored a point less than you. I captained Buemo, so I got that right. Held on to Mateta. I played Raya over Martinez, was 8-point swing there, but I did play, and I played Consa over Ruben Diaz, so got those sort of wrong there.
Yeah,
but,
nice one on Consa. Yeah.
Overall, Palace probably let me down. Munoz 1-pointer, and then Sarah Mateta 4 points between them. Not much there. Didn't really get, but again, being a Spurs fan, right? So Spurs are playing this evening. So they're probably going to rotate again on the weekend. And Palace are away to Spurs. I can just see Palace just scoring a few goals against Spurs this weekend. So that's partly why I held on to him.
Yeah, it's not a bad week. I think this is probably the last week to play your Palace assets. That's what it feels like.
I think so.
And they want to maybe start. There's no harm in coming off them a bit early, because you don't want to be going into game week 37 with 3 City, 3 Palace, really, because you don't know what's going to happen after that cup final.
That's a really good point.
Yeah,
but yeah, and this, and then there's this overlay on top of everything, right? Which you're going to discuss a little bit in this pod around how do you make those climbs, right? So we're both, or are we? I'm not sure how many points we are exactly at the top 100k. Probably maybe 30 points, maybe 40 points. How are we going to make them up, mate? So that's going to be a bit of a chat we're going to talk about later. But dead level after 35 game weeks is crazy, really, because we haven't followed the same chip strategies. I've had Chris Wood for a lot of the season. I've had Salah. I've had Mbeumo. You didn't have them. You've had different players at different times and stuff. So to land dead level is pretty crazy. So, but you are ahead of me in terms of your team. You've got a couple of players who I really want, and there's so many. Like, we had a quick look earlier. So many players you can take on over this next week or two, aren't there? So many really prime fixtures, captaincy, differential captaincy options. It's wide open again this week for captaincy.
Yeah, it's sort of play for. I mean, the game is narrowing, isn't it? It's narrowing into this last funnel of 3 weeks. There's a small player pool that we're looking at of template picks, popular picks, but therefore, in order, depending on what your goals are and how safe you're looking to play, it will dictate how risky you want to go with the differentials and how much you want to stand out. So some people will just go for it. They'll take hits all over the place trying to get to their big, hairy, audacious goal. Other people will play absolutely textbook template, Brian and Mbeumo all the way, to the end of the season, nice and safe, and and we'll see, and they won't suffer the downside. So it's all about what your personal ambitions are. But at least we've got something to battle. We've got to battle with each other, and we're trying to get, I don't know, 100k seems a long way off. We're gonna have to have a miracle couple of weeks, I think, after that latest one. But we'll stay enthusiastic.
Welcome to the chat this evening. Johnny A is in, finally made it on, first time in a while. Welcome, Johnny. D says, smashing the mini league. Thanks to you guys. Would love a yearly roundup pod with Adam or another guest too after the last game of the season. Could do awards, etc. Maybe we'll certainly tend to go on holiday after the Sunday.
Straight afterwards.
I go on the Tuesday because it's the only time really in the season where I can have a full week without without any fantasy distraction, but we will see about that. Mad Dan says, first I've been able to watch live all season. Great to have you, Mad Dan. Thanks for your analysis and advice. I'm 9074 is in. Cedric, Martin Beasley, Sandy Cardenas, Blue Demon Jr. says, yes, baby. Dan Thompson is in. Ian McLaughlin, Barry Coleman, Chris Woodstock, Claire FPL says, I got Bowen last week and did captain him. I think he was my differential shout last week, so well done, Claire. Weekend Fix is in. Balesaru, Russell Skidmore said Budapest Blades alive and kicking, and Justin Phillips. Well done. Welcome to everyone, and well done. But thanks for joining us this afternoon as we chat FPL. We've got the fixture ticker up, Rich, for the final 3 game weeks of the season. There's some not tremendously exciting names up near the top. So the ones who've got the good fixtures seem to be, not the bigger teams, and the bigger teams don't seem to have really good fixtures, which doesn't really lend itself. Well, it could lend itself. Depends how you look at it. We're not going to see any kind of massive top versus bottoms batterings by the look of it. But differential wise, some of the mid-table forwards who everyone's looking at do have pretty good fixtures. So first up, Ipswich are top for the last 3 games. Home to Brentford, away to Leicester, home to West Ham. So really good fixtures for Ipswich, actually. Forest are home to Leicester this week. Target, is it Target Leicester this week? We'll talk about that now.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Bournemouth got Villa at home, City away, and then they're home to Leicester in 38. Now that's a fixture to target, mate. Bournemouth home to Leicester in game week 38. Wolves have got 2 home games, Brighton, and then away to Palace, then home to Brentford, and just right that. So we got Spurs home to Palace, away to Villa, home to Brighton. Not massively exciting. United are home to West Ham this week. Could be one to target. City obviously away to Southampton. But down the bottom are some of the bigger teams with the more own players. So Brighton are rock bottom, then Palace, then Arsenal, Chelsea, Villa, Southampton, Liverpool, Newcastle. So they've all got the tougher fixtures. Sort of all the bigger teams sort of all play each other. All teams, in the middle section. So tough to pick out some, mate. Is it? So looking at this, for me, my very early thought is the opportunity is to target the more mid-table teams who've got the plum fixtures. Maybe that could be where, and captain them. Maybe that's where the differential is, rather than going for, Salah against Arsenal, for example. Sort of a Wood against Leicester or something along those lines. What are your thoughts on the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think so. I think, people have started to have punts on the captaincy, especially last week. There was a big range of people going for different captains. I think you'll see that now every week till the end of the season. You won't see many sort of safe plays on Salah and Isak and those kind of, mainly because they've got tough games, in the last few weeks as well. And people want low ownership picks because they want to get the benefit of the rank rise if their player hits. I mean, personally, I think Wolves is flying slightly under the radar. I think Cunha is a really nice bet with 2 home games. They're 2 middling home games, aren't they? Brighton and Brentford, both teams who can score goals. I don't really mind if Wolves concede one, but I can see Cunha getting a couple of hauls in those last 3 weeks. I mean, the Palace game, the away game in the middle, that could be any Palace team.
Yeah, you're right.
In game week 37.
Because the FA
It
Cup.
could be completely on the beach, having won the FA Cup, and everybody's got the day off. They could be, battered after extra time and penalties, and a couple of days later they've got to roll out a team. They don't really care. They could just put the reserves out. So I think that's a good fixture for Cunha as well. And I think, a lot of talk this week has been Wisselwood, Cunha. Who's your top 3? And personally, I'd probably go for Cunha out of the 3. I know Wissa's probably flavour of the day, but yeah, I really like Wolves there. I mean, looking slightly further down, Forest have a great fixture this week, but then they've got an absolute sort of Champions League decider against Chelsea potentially on the last day of the season. I mean, that could be really tight, that game. It could be like a final, couldn't it, until a semi-final for the Champions League. So that's a really, really tough one. I do like that Bournemouth fixture, and I think you'll see a Bournemouth differential coming up later on in the show. But yeah, I think maybe with the City game, Kevin De Bruyne's swan song game in game week 37, Bournemouth are possibly a wait till 38
Yeah, I think so.
type team. And Brentford obviously are flying, and almost like you almost need 1+, maybe 2+ Brentford if you're going to really go for that fixture. So there's loads of places to spend your money. Loads of places to put your captain.
What we want, mate. That's what we want.
It's going to be a high variance week. Now, we nearly got the double, didn't we? After last week's pod, it was still a bit uncertain as to whether that Villa-Tottenham game was going to be moved, and we haven't got a lie of the landslide up, but they did move the game. They just shunted it forward to next Friday. So I personally, as a Watkins owner, I'm not sure if that's a good thing. Maybe Spurs will play a slightly stronger side before the Europa League final, assuming they get there. I don't know, but
I don't see why they would, mate. I got to be honest. They got, I mean, they've escaped relegation, and that's about it in the league. They got absolutely nothing to play for. So if they're basically playing, you mentioned the same as Forest and Chelsea. Spurs could be, assuming they get through this evening, playing for a Champions League spot, because that's what they're going to get.
So they're not going to risk any more injuries, are they? Because they've lost
Especially
Son,
with Maddison out as well. They just
I
can't see him. So that Villa Spurs game, you're so well set. I'm so jealous. You've already got the players I want to bring in, like De Bruyne and Watkins, especially Watkins. He's under the radar, I think. What have they got this week?
Yeah.
Can't think. Away to Bournemouth this week. Maybe not the easiest one this week, but definitely in place that home to Spurs game. That's captaincy material, mate.
Yeah,
I really do think so.
One of the reasons I did it was I thought I'd have 2 bites of the cherry, basically.
Exactly.
Last week and this week. So yeah, it's good. It's good. But yeah, Villa, good job they won that game against Fulham. They're still going to be motivated. They're still going to be trying to get a Champions League spot themselves, and long may that continue. So they have got tougher fixtures, though, Villa. So they didn't make my list. And then, of course, City. Most people have already got 3 City and will possibly feel a little bit trapped if maybe they've got 2 City defenders, or they want to go for Haaland if he's available, that kind of thing. And, I think really it's going to be another one of those Saturday lunchtimes waiting for a team leak, isn't it? Last week, I was waiting for that. I had 1 minute to set my team.
That's exhausting.
That's going to be like that again, isn't it? It's going to be like that again. Mark, if you're listening, I hope you fix it for deadline next season.
Clear FPL, instant news. David Ornstein has tweeted that Tielemans might miss the rest of the season with injury. So that maybe a Watkins move. Tielemans has played well. He's been supporting Watkins well, haven't he? He's been on fire.
Might get the pens.
So. Interesting there. And Cedric Levy, Bodo are unbeaten at home in the Europa League. They've got a plastic pitch, haven't they? Plastic pitch in the Arctic Circle, mate. What can go wrong?
What could go wrong?
And Scooter says, love hearing you guys speak football. Listen every week. Great, mature, yet funny personalities. Thank you, Scooter. We really, really appreciate that. And thanks for listening to us every single week as well. So we got some targets this week. You've picked out 5. These are maybe the more obvious targets, Rich. Do you just want to talk through each of those? Of course.
And there's nothing new here compared to other content you might have been watching, but the popular picks are the 3 striker options. I think this week people are looking to make a move off that template of Marmoush, Mateta, Isak. Any one of those could be leaving teams this week. Obviously, Newcastle have got a very tough game against Chelsea this weekend. Doesn't make Isak a sell by any means, but some people might be selling Isak because they're eyeing up a De Bruyne or a Saka in future weeks, and it does yield some cash. So really, it's first of all, let's deal with the 3 strikers, if you will, and possibly a 4th lurking in the background. But Wissa, Wood, Cunha, Fergie. I mean, you could throw a blanket over all of them, couldn't you? Really, they're all great picks. They've all got a couple of good fixtures remaining. And so it's all about who have you got a feeling for. I mean, the ownership is pretty similar. I took a note of that before the show. So Wood is 12.1% owned in the top 250k. Cunha is 16% owned in the top 250k, and Wissa is 19.1% owned in the top 250k. So not a lot between them, but significantly low enough ownership to make a big difference to rank. Are you looking at any of those 3 this week?
I certainly am. I would rank them. I try and look when there's 3 this close. I just try and look at all the different factors and try and rank them. I think I would rank Cunha first of these 3. I'd rank them top, and I think what he's got with Visser is penalties. I think penalties. Even though I think non-pen XG is an interesting stat, I've always argued, and I've always come up against, hardcore fantasy players who say, but non-pen XG is the truth. Yeah, I get that, but pens are part of the game. It just is where whether we like it or not. So I do think that pens gives Cunha an edge over Visser. They're both on really good form. Teams on really good form. Individuals on form. So I think Cunha, even though Wood has got penalties. Well, I think this week against Leicester, I think it's a fabulous option for this week. But I think you're right. The fixtures are not easier after that, and he could be rested for the FA Cup. So I think for this week only, if you like free hitting, Wood would be in without a doubt, right? On pens at home to Leicester, it's as good as it gets. Visser is a great option. I can't argue. I think the third argument against Visser is that both Cunha and Wood are the talisman for their team as well as penalty takers, whereas Visser shares a lot of the returns with Mbeumo and Sharda recently. Not that that's a bad thing because they are scoring lots of goals, but there is that as well. So that's my really quick assessment for this
good.
week.
No, very good points. I think Visser obviously doesn't have pens, but he's got 18 goals from open play, if you like.
Yep.
So it doesn't offer, and that's, there'll be open play goals because he doesn't take a lot of set pieces himself either. So basically, like, that's a huge, return from open play football, and he's a great partnership with Mbeumo, and therefore, I think there's been some stats up about the corresponding fixtures that have gone earlier this season, particularly the Ipswich fixtures. So he's primed for big returns this week against Ipswich, and I'm there. I'm one of these people who's there waiting for City team news. Like, we might get a team leak that either De Bruyne is rested or Marmoush doesn't start. You've got to be there with your mind made up there, because in that last minute you've got to say, right, okay, Wissa's coming in, or Cunha's coming in, or Wood's coming in. You haven't got time to make your mind up in that last possibly 2 minutes that you've got if we do get a leak. So I would say Cunha. I'm a lot of shouts for Wissa. I'm going Cunha 1, Wissa 2, Wood 3. I haven't owned Wood all season, and I'm not about to start. So I think it's that Chelsea game on the last day that's just putting me off a bit, because I'd want to change him again on the last day if I bought him now. So I think I'll go Cunha, and with 2 home games, especially the last game of the season. My one worry with Cunha is, can he go 3 games without getting sent off?
They'll flying elbows or something.
Having a fight.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really tough. And people will have different opinions in the chat. People have different opinions, across the board. And I think really you should just pick the one you like the look of, and trust your judgment on this one, on those 3. But there's 2 other guys in the picture, the City guys. Haaland back in full training. He made the bench last week, was not brought on, but he was well enough for the bench. Shots of him training in the sunshine, looking very fit and healthy this week. It's all a question of, I think he'll definitely going to get minutes, Haaland. It's just how much does he, because they're going to get him ready for the cup final. So is he going to start? Is that good for De Bruyne if Haaland starts? I would say so, because he's an assister, isn't he? And he's a creator, and he's a target man's back. So if De Bruyne starts, De Bruyne's captaincy material. And I'm strongly considering captaining De Bruyne this week. But, I'm not sure everyone is rushing to bring him in. He's had about 250,000 transfers in this week. He is probably the top transfer in so far. But obviously everyone's waiting for team news.
Lots of narratives you can spin, whether you're an owner or a non-owner here, mate. I think as an owner, you would spin absolutely last 2 games of the season, playing really well, go for it. As a non-owner, I would argue, is it worth risking getting him injured before a final home game of the season? That's what he'll probably play, right? But that game, he's
got the cup final in between,
and the cup final in between. Oh well, yeah, exactly that as well. So I'm maybe not as sure as you, because he's definitely going to play the cup final, and he's definitely going to play in Gameweek 37, the last home game of his career. So I'm maybe not as convinced as you that he's going to start. I'm not saying he's not going to start, right? He will probably start and probably do really well. But would you be that surprised if Pep says, look, we want him primed for the cup final and primed for his last home game? Because in that last home game, he's going to play 88 minutes and then be brought off with 2 minutes to go.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, and if any penalties that are awarded, when we had this maybe 2 or 3 seasons ago with David Silva, do you remember? I ended up buying him, got swept along with the emotion, and he blanked.
He didn't do anything. You're right. Yeah,
he didn't do anything. So I'm going to hold him for game week 37 against Bournemouth. But yeah, it's as I say, got to wait for a leak, and again, got to react. It's like, what do I do if he's not starting? Do I sell him?
Oh, you got to bench him. You got to have the 37.
You got to bench him.
You got to have the 37.
Exactly. It's tough, isn't it? I could get Palmer in, get Palmer back. If I'm reacting to the leak, but it's like, look at the toughie. But so what I'm hearing, mate, is you're not sure about buying him. Is what you're?
I won't be buying him this week because I think there's. Well, I can't anyway because I've got double defense. But it's more the fact that I do think there's minutes risk. We do the expected mins every Thursday morning on Fantasy Football Hub, and we're just there like with our hands in the air, like who's gonna. We just have no idea. It's just so difficult, and so we do our best.
So what have you said? What have you said then?
We said with De Bruyne because we've averaged him over the final 3 weeks of the season. So we've averaged him, I think, 70 minutes, 72 minutes, something like that, because I think he definitely plays. I think he'll start all three. I think you'll definitely get sort of, the late 80s in the Game of 37 game. He may get a 60 in one game and a 60 in the other. He may not start one of them. He may come on. So I think he definitely gets almost a full 90 in Game of 37. The other two, he may get like 60 in each, or he may get 80 in one and 20 in another or something. So it's just, but again, it's what you think yourself. Even with these algorithms, even with everything, you've got to overlay your own football experience, your own discretion, your own thinking, your own narrative over it. And I wouldn't be bringing him in. I wouldn't be bringing him in this week, as crazy as that sounds, just because of the two massive games they've got coming up. But that's my narrative. If I was an owner, I'd probably be saying something very, very different as you are. Yeah. So, and in terms of Haaland, too early this week, I think, to bring him in. It's a good fixture, but again, like City haven't been fantastic this season. Haaland hasn't even if he does start, he's probably going to get 60, 65 minutes, you'd guess. He probably gets 20 minutes, I think, in this game. Do you think
there's a popular transfer combo, isn't there, coming up for bringing Haaland in? It's just to do like Salah to Sharda, and any one of your three strikers up to Haaland.
Wow.
As a possibly a -4, because not many people have got two.
I just don't think it's worth it though, mate, because of what we just said about the other three strikers, as well as there's nothing wrong with Mateta got Spurs this week. Isak's got Chelsea. There's nothing wrong with the existing template.
You don't have to spend 14.7 million
on someone who might start. No, exactly. In the chat, some interesting stats. Big Lou, well, I'll say this isn't a stat, but he says, Big Lou says Fulham heads are gone. They're not getting top 8 realistically. A manager likely off to Saudi. And Varfel, you can argue Fulham at home is harder than West Ham away. Wood also on pens, but again, Brentford are scoring for fun. Patrick Benjamin said into this, Mbuemo, I know I'm taking all this at face value. Mbuemo has a 12 points per game average against promoted teams. And Vissa has 9 points average against promoted teams. So he's going for Vissa. That might just pump me into an Mbuemo.
A double act and a captaincy. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe even a Sharda though, just to get away from the Vissa ownership
template.
Oh, yeah. Sharda captain, anyone? Interesting. Anyway, on to differentials, and the first player, Kevin Sharda, who I'm not gonna blow smoke up my own backside. Did mention him last week, Rich. He said Sharda's minutes recently have really surprised me. He's playing 90s every week. He's one to consider, and he delivered two. The first one. What a header that first one was. But he looks good, doesn't he?
He does. He looks very good, and I can't see him not starting after that performance. And this is probably the game you really want him for. So even if it's to enable some cash, 5.1 million. I mean, he might have gone up to 5.2 now. Less than 1% owned in the top 250k. I'll tell you the ownership on each of these guys. He's a great shout if you can't, or you're happy with your three forwards, which, let's face it, Mateta, Marmoush and Isak all have decent games this week. You don't have to take any of them out, and you might be looking for to generate some cash for future moves. So I really like Sharda, certainly for an ownership pick. And all of these picks really, they're probably not, well, they're not as safe as the five we've just been through, and they're not as popular, but many people are chasing. They're going for Hail Marys. They're going for, an individual mini league leader that's maybe 40, 50, 60 points ahead. It's not likely to happen for you, but it is much more likely to happen for you if you bang with a couple of differentials in the last 3 weeks. And so these are the guys whereby the points are almost all exclusively yours when these guys score a lot. So this is why they're on the list. And I just picked out 5. I mean, Jamie Vardy, don't know if you saw his interview with Gary Lineker at the weekend on Match of the Day, but they're going to do everything they can in their power to get him to 200 goals, right? Yeah. He's on 199 goals. Yeah. Forest, unless I'm wrong, is a derby, right, between Leicester and Forest. That is not a walkover for Forest. That's going to be a very heated game. I think Leicester have obviously just had a win, over Southampton last week, and I'm hearing some people shout Vardy as a real uber differential. He's less than 1% owned as well, and then I've got Nicholas Jackson in here, who's also less than 1% owned in the top 250k. Can you believe that he's less than 1%
Wow.
owned?
Just all these options,
And
isn't
get
there? Well, he's been
yeah,
injured, obviously,
but
but
yeah, but get this, get this. I didn't put him on there, but guess this: Cole Palmer. Have a guess what his ownership is in the top 250k.
um, top 250k. I guess it dropped quite a lot. 32%.
5.3%.
Really? Oh my goodness! I'm really. I know a lot of people did the Palmer to Saka move, and some didn't, and some wildcard like yourself straight to Saka, didn't they?
Yeah,
In 30.
isn't that amazing? Isn't that
Wow,
amazing? He was up at
that is
60% a
crazy.
few weeks.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's astonishing. So anyway, yeah, Chelsea assets, no one owns them basically. So if you fancy Chelsea, they have got quite tough fixtures, but they're on form. They're going for the Champions League, and that penalty for Palmer may well turn things around for him. So.
Wow.
There you go. And then the last two to mention, Evan Nielsen, couldn't believe his ownership, 4.1%. He's been pretty current, pretty present for about 10 weeks now, scoring very regularly, scored against Arsenal away, and the winning goal. Fantastic option for the last week. They got Leicester in the last week. Why not bring him in this week against Villa if you really want a differential that nobody else owns? He's going to shoot you up the ranks if he does well, and he's doing really well. I mean, I'm not sure he's not on pens, is he? Clivert is on pens.
Clivert when he's on the pitch, but Clivert sometimes goes off a bit early, doesn't he?
Yeah, and in which case you might get them. So yeah, Evan Nielsen, I really like him. Probably out of all of these, is the one I'm probably most tempted to do over the last 3 weeks. And if you don't want Chris Wood and you'd rather make a midfield differential pick, then our friend Anthony Elanga, who we all should have brought in game week 29, I think.
Smashed it, didn't he?
He smashed it, didn't he, in that week?
Did.
Yeah, in the blank. So yeah, there's 5 if you are looking for something a bit different. And who would you have out of them if you could have anyone?
I think it depends on the game week. So my immediate thoughts are, if you were going for each, I think the strategy I'm going to take of these last 3 game weeks, I'm just going to target teams. So if I was doing that this week, it would be Elanga this week against Leicester. It would be Vardy in 37 at home to Ipswich, and it would be Evan Nielsen in 38 at home to Leicester. Sharda I like as just an ongoing player there. Can't get too excited about Jackson, really, even though he's playing well. They are going to qualify for the Europa Conference final, even though that is after the season is finished. But really good options. I want to ask you your thoughts, Rich, on hits, because there's not many people now. I don't think, I may be speaking out of turn, but it feels like most managers now have only got one transfer, maybe 2 absolute max. What are your thoughts on hits? Because I'm just thinking, like, this week, I would love to target, just an example, Sharda and Elanga as 2 differentials, but it would mean a -4, and I'd be taking out a good player as well. And then maybe in 37 doing the same thing, and then 38 going Clivert and Evan Nielsen, just proper going for it. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it depends. Obviously, it depends on your personal goals, your personal team. If you don't mind the downside, right? If you're losing anyway, and you're after beating one person or winning one mini league, and you don't want to come second, you just want to win it, then go for it. Take a couple of hits in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and take some -4s, get the players you want with high upside, and go for it. But be prepared for your rank to drop if it doesn't come off. I mean, basically that is the situation. I mean, I've personally got a couple of mini league goals which I spoke about last week. I want to stay in a particular mini league that I'll get relegated from if I'm too gung ho. So I'm likely to play it a little bit safer than someone who's just 40 points behind their mini league leader and just wants to catch up and is looking for differentials. So I would say -4s are fine in the last few weeks, particularly if you're reorganizing and you're bringing in, high upside players. I don't really like -4s on the last day. I think it's you're unlikely to get a green arrow. Everybody wants a green arrow to finish the season. I do value 2 free transfers on my last day because you don't know what's going to happen with lineups or injuries or anything like that, and the ability to move money around, come off a forward, go to a mid, or vice versa, and use those transfers on the last day. It's nice to be able to do that for free. So, although there's all this talk about differentials, I don't think it's a bad week to save a transfer because our teams are pretty well set up. If you look at the fixtures, we're just getting a bit finicky about differentials.
I can't save. I haven't got any differentials. I've got the most template team. You can imagine, even if all my players score, I'll still get a red arrow, or so, or I'll barely move. So I'm definitely. I'm just having a quick look at my team now as we were talking. Then I think I'm going to take a -4 and do a couple of moves this week. I do threaten it quite a lot.
That's good. Good. That's good.
Now I've got an actual goal to play for. I think I'm going to have to. And there's 2 players I really like the look of, either Elanga or Wood this week for Forest. I really like the look of those. So I need to think about my ongoing strategy because I probably won't want them after that. I really like the look of Sharda for the last 3 game weeks. I think they're the 2 I'm gonna target. But
and who are you thinking of selling?
Well, that's what I'm looking at now. We'll get to our teams in a bit. I'll probably sell. Sure. Well, I'm not going to sell Rodgers actually because they got Spurs in 37. Oh, I need to give it some thought, mate. Salah? I don't know. We'll have a look in a bit.
You'll have 14 million in the bank, won't you? So.
Predicted points for the rest of the season. This is on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. You can check them out yourself if you want. Salah. Still top. The algo still loves Salah for the end of the season, even though they have got toughish fixtures. They're not that tough actually, and then include 2 home games. Salah top 22 points. Saka is second, interestingly 19. When he's fit. Obviously they're out of Europe now as well. He's going to play. Still on penalties. Scored last night. He's still a machine. I think.
Missed an absolute howler, didn't he? With about 10 minutes to go,
he did. So,
but yeah, he still scored. He's going to get more points. I'm not surprised to see him second on the list. He's certainly someone I'm eyeing bringing back.
I think he might be a differential, mate. I really do. Yeah. Isak in third. De Bruyne. After saying I'm not sure about De Bruyne, De Bruyne makes it in 4th place overall. Cunha 5th. Palmer. You mentioned Palmer and his ownership. Goodness me. Then Visser, Marmoush, and Buemo and Haaland all around the 15-point mark. Watkins, Wood, Martinelli, Evan Nielsen. We mentioned all these players. Bowen, Sharda, Semenyo on the 15th. You can throw a blanket over those. Bottom 14 sort of players there. They're all much of a much, and this is why it's so difficult. Is we can only pick. Notice there's no defenders in that whole top 20 there. We can only pick 6 out of those 20 players. And those top sort of 12 picks there, you'd be happy with any of them, right? If I picked out 3 random ones, right, Rich? I'll look now. I'll go for 5, 8, and 11, right? So that is Cunha, Marmoush, and Watkins or Wood. You'd be happy with those 3, wouldn't you?
They're all fine. You're not busting to sell any of those, are you? Really?
So
no, exactly. So that's fine.
So
it's wide open.
Really, it is a real chance of big swings, and this is why I think you have to go for differentials because differentials got just a chance as a template team. Let's have a look at the Gameweek 36 wildcard team. Again, this is Hub AI Fantasy Football Hub, and this just gives some clues on players to potentially target at the end of the season. Leno and Areola as the keepers. They've gone cheap. Keepers are not really doing much at the moment. Gvardiol has gone double defence for Forest. He still likes it. Milenkovic and Williams. They have got the 2 home games. Forest fixture is pretty decent actually. Home to Leicester, away to West Ham, home to Chelsea.
Solid.
It likes it there. And Kiwior and O'Brien as the enabler. And we're going to see more interesting ones. Salah, De Bruyne, Saka, Sharda is in. Ahead of Mbuemo, probably due to price, obviously, because it's 3 million cheaper. And Semenyo, it's probably looking at that
for the last day.
At the last day, and then Isak, Cunha, and Visser. So that's what Have AI.
Yeah, interesting.
Picking.
So Wood doesn't make the grade. It goes 2 Forest defenders. It goes Wisser and Cunha over Wood, and De Bruyne makes it along with Saka. Yeah, it's a good team, isn't it? It's a good team. It's balanced, and Sharda is the enabler. Yeah, I like it. The keepers are interesting. But yeah, I guess again that's budget.
It'll be budget because there's Salah, De Bruyne, and Saka, and Isak there actually. So there's some there's some expensive players there. But yeah, good to see players like Sharda and and stuff in there. So yeah, it's interesting. It's but again, that could be any team, right? And I think that's what makes the end of the season quite exciting. Is there's all sorts of.
Do you know anybody who's got a wild card left?
I don't, but it's more around, I suppose, just looking at the kind of team that the most. So obviously, this is like according to Hub AI anyway, the most optimal team for the final 3 game weeks, I suppose. So it's interesting.
Of course,
it's got
it's better than a free hit, isn't it? Exactly. This week, yeah, absolutely. Although I have had quite a few questions about if you had a free hit left, which week would you use it?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
I don't think this. I think this week is too bad. There's some good matches to target, I think.
Yeah.
Probably not 37, maybe 38, just because it obviously
37. 37, there's too much jeopardy around the cup final and around the European finals and stuff. So I think that would be a risky
probably
week.
This week, maybe. There's good fixtures. You go triple Brentford, triple Forest, Man City. Maybe there's some really strong ones to target. Maybe so. Probably this week.
Yeah, interesting.
The final chance to use your assistant manager chip if you haven't used it already this week, and we've got the predictions up from Fantasy Football Hub. Rich, I got to be honest, I'm really giving this too much thought.
Think, I mean, it's interesting to see that the because of their ridiculously low league positions, Manchester United and Tottenham clearly have table bonus in almost every game they have left, I think. So that's why they top the predictions. But can you see them actually winning a game between now and the end of the season? I don't know. I mean, given your Garnacho pick, there's lots of opinion out there over whether they will play stronger teams next week. In the game week 37, a few days ahead of the final, just to give the players a run out. Otherwise, they'll have a 10-day break or 2-week break after tonight before the final. Well, let's wait and see if they get to the final first, shall we? But I mean, actually, I'd probably be going Guardiola. I'd just be saying, Manchester City is such a machine at getting the Champions League.
Yeah, they are.
They're on a run. They're keeping clean sheets. They're winning every game. I would just probably put it on Guardiola and save your other transfers for players. That's just what I'd do.
I think that's a really good shot.
There isn't double game weeks. There was always a chance there wouldn't be double game weeks, but you still have all those extra points there. And if you can get 30 points out of Pep Guardiola, I think that's fine.
Music Pogo says Pep 100%. Then eye up West Ham versus Forest in game week 37. But it'd be a good table bonus option there. Yeah, just having a look. He's top. Potter's top. 37 predicted 10.6 points.
Yeah.
Don't forget, you can look at these yourself. fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. You can join using the top link in the description below. And this may be the last ever time, which we talk about assistant manager. We don't know if he's going to be back next year. What's your final take on it? On the chip? Do you want it back next season?
To be honest, no. I wouldn't want it back. I think it's like someone's parachuted a free bet into the game.
It's exactly the analogy I think as well.
Yeah, and I don't see it adds any skill. It adds a great deal of variance and luck, and we've got enough of that already. So I if I want to bet, I'll go to the betting shop and put £10 on 3 consecutive wins for a team. You can do that, but I don't do that. So therefore, and I do think betting is a emotive subject for many, and I don't think it's a great chip. Now it'd be interesting to see what FPL towers do with it. It may hang around in some shape or form, but it won't be there for game week 1. Because could you imagine the carnage if it came in game week 1?
I just,
there won't be any table bonus, will there? Because everyone's on the same points at the beginning.
Even as a very seasoned and engaged manager, having to manage, what was it, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? There was 7 game weeks you have to use a chip in towards the end of the season, and it's just fried my. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, Rich, right, if a lot of casual managers still don't even know it's there because they because they just wouldn't even think to look for it. They're not on Twitter, right? They're not on they're not on all these social media platforms looking every day at different things. So I I hope for simplicity's sake, and I also hope for, as you mentioned, about the actual chip itself. I don't think it adds to the gameplay. I think it's just a distraction, just an unwelcome distraction.
It is. I remember when it came in, at that last minute of the Moyes slot time, and most of us played it. I was on holiday. I had to play it from my sunbed, and spend the next 36 hours planning what I was going to do. So it's very disruptive and it's all encompassing. You can't really think about anything else other than the team and the manager and swapping the manager for those 3 weeks, because you're completely frozen from doing anything else. It uses your transfers, it uses your budget, and it changes the way you watch football as well. I'll never forget that Everton 2-2 draw with Liverpool and that last minute Tarkowski goal. I mean, it's very emotional, whichever way you were slanted, because most people were Slot or Moyes. So therefore, there will be moments, but it's not been the crack in recent weeks, has it? It's been very disappointing, some of the table bonus stuff. So yeah, I don't like it, and I hope it gets replaced by something better. But I have confidence that we've got someone over there now that knows what the game needs. So.
Come on, Mr. Southern, sort it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Best captain this week. We've already said wide open. Predicted points: Salah top with 7, Isak 6.2, De Bruyne 6.1, Cunha 5.8, Saka 5.7, Vissa 5.5, and then a host of others. In terms of the votes, quite interesting. I don't know if you've seen it, Rich. Do you know who's top of the votes?
I have.
Brian and Bremo away to Ipswich, 30% of the votes. That surprised me, I must say. Salah second, De Bruyne third. What's your thoughts on captain this week?
I'm between De Bruyne and Mbeumo myself, in terms of narrowing it down. I think I will only captain De Bruyne if I get confirmation that he starts via a leak that I will have to trust. So I wouldn't feel confident putting the armband on him just not getting any team news, which is very possible that we don't get any team news, and therefore I'll probably put it on Mbeumo, unless there's confirmation that De Bruyne starts. It just feels like he's going to get something against Ipswich, and having not gone for him last week, I'm not feeling quite as punty this week, and because I've brought Watkins in, I'm not going to do one of those 3 popular striker moves, Wissa, Wood, Cunha, which is possibly the other captaincy shout that you might go for instance. You might go Cunha captain, which is really out there, isn't it? Where's he on the list? He doesn't even make the list.
Does he make the list of votes?
There we are, mate. That's what you want, isn't it? Yeah. So how do you feel about it?
I think Mbeumo would be my top pick. I like that stat earlier, assuming it's true that he averages 12 points. But that makes me kind of lean more towards someone like Sharda, in terms of like Sharda's, he's bloomed late this season, and obviously Mbeumo plays for Brentford. Brentford score lots of goals. If Mbeumo scores lots of points, it's likely Sharda will score a few points as well. Sharda, as last week, could be the beneficiary of Mbeumo and Vissa and Damsgaard and Norgaard's really good play in midfield. So I think if I were to go for Brentford play, I'd probably go for Sharda ahead of Mbeumo. The only thing with Mbeumo is we know he gets on 90 minutes. And I'm sure there's been a couple of times in the last 2 seasons where he scored like a 96-minute penalty.
Oh, it's loads of after 90-minute goals.
So frustrating. So that would annoy me if I went for Sharda.
Yeah.
And then Mbeumo went and scored a late penalty. So maybe if I do take a hit for differential, maybe the differential is differential enough not to go crazy on the captain. But I do think Mbeumo would probably be a differential captain still, potentially, or
I think he will. The spread is good. Let's look at the spread there, just on that small sample.
Exactly.
Even though his ownership will be really high in the engaged manager universe, not everyone will captain him.
Exactly.
And I had to go and work in my garden when the Brentford United game was on, because I could see it was going to be an absolute crapshoot of a game with goals going in all over the place, and I just couldn't watch it, because even though I owned him, Bremo, I couldn't watch it, and I thought I kept coming in and checking if he'd got one yet and checking if he hadn't, and I don't think if they score 4 goals again, he's going to be out of the double figures.
He didn't. I'm not even sure. Mind, he had a shot on target. He might have had 1. He didn't have 2, because I had that as part of.
Well, his shot was apparently counted as a cross, which is why it was awarded as an assist.
Okay.
So he was actually looked like he was having a shot, but the FPL Towers decided that it was a cross for the assist. So yeah, he didn't have the best of games, but I think that was just a just a blip. He still managed to get 5 points. So I think Mbeumo, he's not the standout, but I'd like to go to De Bruyne against Southampton. I think the 6-0's there for City, and
really,
and I'd like, yeah, I think so.
Oh,
I think,
goodness me. FPL Freddy says, and Mbeumo got a 96-minute winner in the reverse fixture. Colin Bugler, Vissa captain for me currently. Good stuff.
There we are. Loads of options.
Fergie's a punt for Game Week 36. Pretty random one this week. I sometimes try and mix up between an eye test sort of player, and then sometimes it's just a player in the stats and make you go, what? A bit of a double take. And I had that this week in terms of this player. I don't think we've mentioned him since probably like Game Week 6, even though you did give the game away about 10 minutes ago, Rich, when you said I was gonna go for him. But this player in the last 4 games, he's played every minute of every game. He's only second to Salah in terms of shots, and he's fifth overall for shots in the box in this time as well. He's had a couple of shots on target. I don't think anyone's going to guess this, mate, to be honest. He's a midfielder. He's 5.9 million. He's a proper punt. He is like, and he'll probably play. Like I say, he's played every minute in the last 4. The proper punt. He's one that, if you're going crazy, there's enough punts, right? I wouldn't go for him this week because there's enough players you can go for. Schade, and all these other ones we have talked about. But second overall for shots in the last 4 game weeks is Alejandro Garnacho of Man United, and he's played every minute as well. So obviously they do play this evening, so keep your eye out. But in the last 4 games, 4 league games for United, 2 goals, 1 assist, 13 shots in the last 4 weeks, 4 on target, 10 shots in the box. And the fixtures, I think their fixtures are pretty decent. So they're home to West Ham this week, away to Chelsea, home to Villa. The Chelsea one will be at risk because that is the game before the Europa Cup final.
Yeah,
so should play at home to Villa as well, which will be all right. But scored a cracking goal in the last week as well.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Absolute barnstormer. Is a top corner. But he is my punt. If I was doing a true punt, who I may bring in, it's probably more like a Sharda or like an Elanga. But he just caught my eye. I was really, really surprised at the stats. So Garnacho, when he pops in 2 goals on the weekend, mate, and everyone's laughing. Oh, who's got Garnacho? What a useless FPL pick. Have a look back to this pod.
Absolutely.
Any critique there, Rich?
I've got him. We've got our last sleeper showdown in our draft game, and Garnacho's in my team. So you're gonna see how he does against you.
I'll be sick if one, I don't bring him in, and 2,
I think we're playing for second, you and I. But you might still be able to win the league if you beat me. I could throw the game.
Don't do that, Paul. If you're listening, Rich is joking. He's not going to do that. We'll talk about it after it.
Yeah, all right. Yeah,
no.
But Garnacho's in my sleep. I'll play it straight, Paul. Don't you worry. So hopefully he'll come up with a good,
because obviously they play this evening, and he is on form. So he may have just slipped back into the best 11 to play in Europa, and not in the league. We will see.
Exactly.
Rich, we've got your team up for Game Week 36. You want to go through it and your plans for the week?
Not sure who to play in goal. That's what I was going to ask you in the chat. Do you play Raya away to Liverpool or Areola away to United? It's a bit of a best of a bad bunch, isn't it, really? But, given United's inability to score goals, you've just been talking Garnacho up. But, is Areola better than Raya? So not sure. Probably the algorithm thinks Raya.
Yeah, it does.
Guardiola's fine at the back. I will probably start Livramento over Kiwior. I don't fancy the Arsenal double up away to Liverpool, so I'll probably play Livramento at home to Chelsea, and I'll give Munoz a run out against Tottenham. Could well get something there. Salah, KDB, and Mbeumo and Sarr in the midfield. So I like the midfield again. Sarr against Spurs is fine. I think Sarr over Rodgers this week, with Rodgers away to Bournemouth, although Rodgers is fine if somebody doesn't make it. I think one of the questions in the chat was if De Bruyne doesn't play or if he's benched, who would you get in? I think you said it earlier. I think you just bench De Bruyne if you hear he's not going to play, and you keep him for the Bournemouth game rather than spend transfers unnecessarily. I mean, I've got the money, I think, just to do De Bruyne to Palmer and have Palmer as a differential, but the Chelsea fixtures are tough, right? Away to Newcastle, away to Forest. Yeah, they have got a home game against United, but I'd rather have De Bruyne for the Bournemouth home game. So I think if De Bruyne is benched, I will just bench De Bruyne and play Rodgers. And then Isak, Marmoush and Watkins up front, hoping Watkins can come up with something against Bournemouth. I don't see any reason why not, but really he's in for the Spurs game. And then I might swap him out in the last week, but he probably is okay for the rest of the season, especially with Villa going for Champions League. So, yeah, team's not bad at all. And I may save, if Marmoush and De Bruyne are starting, I really like the idea of 2 free transfers on the last week, and you've got to save one this week or next. So I might save. I won't sell Marmoush if he's starting, and I won't sell Isak for one of those sort of 3 popular options. So I think I'll end up saving, mate. What do you think? Do you think I should make a transfer? What does the AI say I should do?
I'll tell you. The AI says, well, you're not going to like this. You're not going to like this. Sell Watkins for Cunha this week.
Watkins for Cunha.
That's what it says for this week on both the optimised and aggressive as well. It likes just likes Cunha more than Watkins is all, which
it kind of backs up our he's our favourite out of the 3, isn't he? Both of us think he's the one to go for, so that kind of is helpful in a way. Although I will not be doing.
No,
that,
I'm sure you'll. But I can understand why it's more. It's more the Gameweek 37, and this is a problem. This is why it's hard with the algorithm. Is we just don't know what team Spurs are going to put out. We think they may rest it, but how many times have we been wrong, right? We were wrong about Liverpool versus Southampton before the Champions League game. Oh, they're going to rest a full 11, and they played their full 11. We were wrong last week with Arsenal. Oh, they're going to rotate their whole team ahead of PSG. They played their first choice 11. You just don't know, and this is why it's so difficult. I think you're a good mate, to be honest. I think you've got your differentials already in Watkins and De Bruyne. I don't think you need any more. So I think you're looking good. Both optimised and aggressive transfers this week. Recommend Watkins to Cunha for yourself. But yeah, saves a good shout, mate. You could go into 38, especially with a couple of transfers. That would be really nice. Yeah. Bear in mind, you've already got Watkins and De Bruyne for 37, who are going to be probably the top transfers in those weeks. So.
Yeah, so I could save in 37, having got that. But then again,
you'll probably have another fire somewhere.
Definitely have. I think there's a chance if Haaland starts, Marmoush might get benched. In which case, if Marmoush is benched, I will sell him. I will definitely sell him. And this pod has helped me know that I will go for Cunha rather than Wissa, I think, as my choice. So I bring Cunha in and possibly captain him.
Good stuff. Yeah, I like that, mate. I've got Raya or Martinez. Martinez has got Bournemouth. Who would you pick out of that defence? Probably Martinez.
Go Martinez.
I'll probably go Martinez, I think. Gvardiol and Ruben Diaz. I'm happy with that. And then at the back, the choice of Munoz, Timber. I'm not going to play, but probably I'm going to hold on for maybe give me 38. They got Southampton. That's not too bad. And Konza. I'm definitely not going to double up on Martinez and Konza. So that means I will play Munoz. Actually, against Spurs, against the Munoz, he'll be up against the Udogi or someone. He's going to absolutely run riot down that wing. So yeah, actually, Munoz definitely. I've then got Salah and Buemo, Sarr, Rodgers, and Murphy. So,
your team's crying out for Sharda.
Well, it is. I could really easily do Murphy straight to Sharda, and probably play him ahead of Rodgers. Rodgers away to you're benching Rodgers this week.
Yeah, I'm benching Rodgers. Yeah,
I could probably say Sharda ahead of Rodgers. That's not bad. And then I got Isak, Marmoush, and Mateta.
Mateta.
I keep it Mateta.
Problem is, one of the reasons I sold Mateta last week is because we're going to run into game week 37 with 3 City and 3 Palace assets. Most teams are.
Yeah.
And you're going to be blind because the deadline's before the cup final. You don't know who's going to get injured in the cup final, who's going to get benched for the cup final, and therefore who's going to maybe favourite to start. None of this. You will go into whenever it is, that Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it's only the Tuesday, isn't it? Not knowing who is going to start for City and who is going to start for Palace. Your only known starter is De Bruyne against Bournemouth, really. Everybody else is up in the air. So having 3 or 4 Palace City assets is a lot better than having 5 or 6. So I think you should decide whether or not you want to sell Mateta for one of those 3 striker options this week, possibly over the Sharda move, because it just feels less upside.
Really?
Yeah, I'd go Mateta. Mateta to Cunha.
Dreadful. They're so bad.
Let's talk of Nketiah getting a game anyway. So Mateta has been getting hooked early. So I don't know.
Goodness
I don't
me.
know.
Well, it'd be for a hit.
If I were you, I would get Cunha for Mateta.
What as my one transfer?
As for one transfer.
You go from ahead of Sharda.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness me. That's made me think.
Yeah. But look, I mean, what does the chat think? Yeah, Mateta has to go. Look, balls are roo. Yeah, there we are. Yeah, they're agreeing with me, mate.
Okay, need to give it some thought. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll definitely be making at least one transfer. It's just because Spurs, mate. It just seems madness. It's so bad.
nothing like a Spurs fan to back his own
they're
team.
Awful. I did it last week with Bowen as well, and West Ham have been bad as well, but Bowen still managed to score.
How much money you got in the bank? By the way?
3 million. I've got
really?
Enough. Yeah,
okay.
No, I'm fine.
Well, there you go. You could do Murphy up to anyone, really, couldn't you? You could get Bowen this week. It's not too late to get Bowen.
No,
we haven't mentioned.
I fancy Shaw. I think the time to get Bowen was last week. I think the time to get Shaw is this week, or Visser or whoever else. I'll give it some thought, mate. Or
All right.
I tell you what, I would. Do you know what I'd be more excited about? Actually, thinking about it. Is doing a triple up and going in Buemo, Sharda and Visser and hoping that, they bang a couple of 4-2s in or 4-1s or something and really
go to -4.
Yeah, and get the goal and the assist off, most goals or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there we are. Look, rolling. I was going to say my cam and my voice are out of sync. But anyway, rolling is great option because Palace play Spurs, to be fair. Yeah, rolling is a great option because you definitely, we're possibly getting together on the last day. We're possibly going to be neck and neck on the last day. And if I've got 2 free transfers and you've got 1, you're going to feel very restricted, aren't you?
I am. Or it's roll. Or, like as you say, just go down a different route. I can play Rodgers this week. I mean, he's fine to play, right? Away to Bournemouth. He's probably, he's on form. He does well. You're excited to have Watkins. Rodgers has got at least as much a chance as return as Watkins has, based on.
And I've benched all his points all season as well. So
let's see.
Yeah, he's fine. He's fine to play, isn't he? Yeah, interesting stuff. But
you'll never guess what my recommended transfer is. Mateta to bloody Cunha. And that,
of course, it is.
And that is both my optimised and aggressive transfer this week.
Yeah, it makes sense, mate. It makes sense just to come off a Palace asset. Honestly, enjoy the game tonight. See what happens. See how many walking wounded there are at the end of that for Spurs. But honestly, I think Palace have got an eye on the cup final. They are not going to be full tilt out to murder Spurs. I think you can lose one of them, and I think Sarr. You've still got Sarr as well, haven't you? So
I've got Sarr. Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. I've got something, and the forwards. I know this may sound a bit. I'm not too bothered about missing forward Hall. Where I think Mateta. I think Mateta might score, but if he does score, he may be capped. His points are capped at like single digits. I think when midfielders score,
Eze's got penalties off him as well.
Exactly. Now as well. Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, it's not an easy one because I can tell you I was very worried about him scoring when I'd sold him for Watkins last week. So it's one of these periods of the season where the player you sell may well bang, and that's the worst kind of feeling, isn't it? Is that they bang the game after you sell them. So I don't know. I think you're going to be moving Mateta out for Watkins next week anyway, or you're going to be doing it for this week. So just think it over, mate. But I think that's a good suggestion by the AI there.
It's quick super chat. Thoughts on Isak to Cunha from -4? I wouldn't.
Not for a -4. Not with 2 home games to
Isak
come.
is just he's.
No.
I know we haven't mentioned Isak really, but that's because
if that goes against you, Subjot, your rank will plummet through the floor, mate.
Absolutely.
No.
Rahul says, I have enough funds. I'm going from Marmoush to Haaland. Salah to Bowen. I am chasing. Wish me luck. Good luck, Rahul. That is brave. That is ballsy. I like it. I mean, if you... The problem with me, Rich, is I'm in so many intricate mini leagues and combined mini leagues. So I'm in lots of leagues, for example, where it adds up my FPL score, my Dream Team score, and my Telegraph score. That if I make a big mistake in FPL, it could knock me out of, contention for winning I've got to balance things all so much. So right, enough about that. That is it from us this week. Thank you so much to everyone who joined in the chat. Those who watch it back and those listening on the podcast version, your support is very, very much appreciated. Rich, thank you so much as usual. Where can people get hold of you?
I'm on @Rich Clarke FPL on X and Blue Sky.
And we are golfing before we pod next week.
Yes.
So we will give the outcome of that as well. That should be good fun. We're golfing next Wednesday. And where Rich is going down for the day with... I'm playing a nice four ball.
Couple of hub members.
With a couple of hub members, so it should be good fun.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that'll be good. We'll put a picture out of us on the golf course. We'll maybe having an England versus Wales match or something like that.
So, come on, bring it on. My handle on Twitter is @FFH_Fergie, and this podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel, with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. We'll be back next week looking ahead to the penultimate game week 37. In the meantime, we hope you have a fantastic game week 36, and may all your arrows be green. Good night, all.